Hello and welcome to this week's In Conversation, in which I talk to people in the Northeast dynamic and exciting cybersecurity industry. My name is Phil Jackman, and today I'm joined by Claire Vandenbroecke, Force Specialist Cyber Protect and Prepare Officer at Northumbria Police. Hi Claire, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks Phil. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. And I hope you got your name and title right, because it's quite a long
Yeah, it is. It's fairly wordy. Yes, you're absolutely spot on. I often just kind of shorten it to Cyber Protect Officer when I'm in conversation, but that is the official title, so thank you.
Excellent. So can we start with and tell us a bit about yourself and your role at Northumbria Police?
Yeah, so I've been doing this role for about 3.5 years now. It was a new team that was formed back in December 2018. We have detectives on the team and also civilians like myself who do a lot of outreach with businesses, communities, victims and individuals. And we also support internal teams within Force, like community engagement teams, safeguarding, school liaison officers, in making sure that they're delivering the right online safety advice to their communities and their groups. My role primarily focuses on supporting businesses with their cybersecurity needs, engaging with them, delivering presentations, workshops, exercises, etc., and also supporting victims, both individuals and businesses who have obviously been a victim of cybercrime.
Yes, I think if I got this right, you've got three parts to your job. So the first is to engage with businesses and communities in the Northumbria Police area. And what area does this cover? And how does that engagement work?
Yeah, so I cover the whole of obviously Northumbria Police's area, which is everything from the kind of the borders with Scotland. So you've got Northumberland, North Tyneside, South Tyneside, Newcastle, Gateshead, and Sunderland, and that goes all the way down to our border with Durham and across to Cumbria as well. But I also do work really closely with my colleagues in Durham and in Cleveland, and also at our regional cybercrime team as well. So I actually end up engaging with businesses across the whole of the Northeast.
Excellent. So, and the second thing is you deal with one-to-one support with victims of crime. Now, cybercrime is often seen as a victimless crime. How are people really affected by this, and how does your support alleviate their problems?
Yeah, they're affected quite significantly, and that's both businesses and individuals. If we kind of start with individuals, what we're seeing a lot of at the moment is social media hacking, primarily Instagram and Facebook. And what's happening is the cyber criminals are gaining access to victims' social media profiles, pretending to be the victim, sending messages out to their contacts or their followers, and also posting on the actual social media page, trying to get people to invest in cyber scams such as cryptocurrency, financial investment, things like that, or even trying to get information off them to then actually get into their profiles. And what we're finding is obviously individuals on social media, they save a lot of personal memories, really special memories, photographs that they might not have saved anywhere else. And also a lot of people are obviously using social media for business purposes as well. And it's really difficult sometimes to actually recover that account because the cyber criminals are so quick at changing all of the contact information, which the victim can use to obviously recover the account. So it has quite an emotional impact, which can affect them long term. One of the things that I do is work closely with the victims in making sure that they're implementing all of the correct security measures to prevent it from happening again. I explain to them how it's happened, so it's not that the cyber criminal is targeting them specifically. They've just managed to get into their account because they've managed to get hold of data which has been leaked onto the dark web, or they've guessed a really easy to guess password. So I educate them on password security, on extra layers of security, which will stop the criminals from getting in if they do have passwords or email addresses, and just in general signpost them to really good websites such as the National Cybersecurity website, where there's loads of free advice on keeping yourself safe and your data and your online accounts online. When it comes to businesses, and it isn't just businesses but primarily businesses, there is that financial impact as well. We have local companies who are hit with what we call ransomware, where cyber criminals will break into their networks, they'll get hold of their data and they'll hold it to ransom, and they'll tell the company that they have to pay a certain amount of money before they'll release the data back to them. If that business doesn't have a backup, whereas they've got that data saved somewhere else which isn't connected to the network, then it's really difficult for them to actually recover that data if they don't have the money to pay the ransom. The government guidance is not to pay the ransom because you're funding organised crime. There's no guarantee you'll get the data back, and that criminal will still sell that data, on the dark web as well and make money that way. And so what we do is we try our best to obviously help them recover the data in whatever way we can. And if that's not possible, at least try and get them back up and running, and help them to, kind of contact the relevant authorities if they have to report it to the ICO, things like that. But primarily, the government recognises that we're not going to investigate or arrest our way out of cybercrime. It's all about prevention and education. And that's the main thing with my role, is to go out and educate businesses to make sure they've got those kind of security measures in place before it actually happens.
Yeah, it's a very emotional and personal attack, isn't it? And very visceral. I think often people will find very difficult to come forward and feeling very foolish that they've been caught in some ways. Yeah. Okay, so this vulnerability assessment service, I think, which is part of the Protect project. Tell us about that. What's it entail, and how does it work, and how do you get access to it?
So it's free, first of all, which I think is always one of the most important things to say, because businesses like anything that's free that might support and help them. It's one of many free services that we offer to businesses, and all of the services are listed on our website, which I can obviously give you the details for, which you can share. Excuse me. So the vulnerability assessment itself uses industry standard software. We use something called Nessus. There are other softwares out there, and what it does is it scans public facing IP addresses that are attributed to the domain of the business. So for example, kind of cybernorth.co.uk, that potentially has an IP address connected to a router, which is obviously speaking to the internet. So it needs to be publicly available and visible in order to do that. What cyber criminals do is that they will do the same thing and scan those IP addresses, but they will then take advantage of any vulnerabilities and exploit them. So if you think of it in terms of more traditional crime, if we've got an individual who's wanting to break into houses, they'll go along a street and they might try door handles or windows to see if anybody's left them unlocked or open. Our officers can go out and do that and advise individuals and say, you need to secure this lock, you need to change the alarm code, from the kind of, the factory setting. So we do that, but just in a digital world. So if we discover a vulnerability, we won't exploit it like the cyber criminals do. We put all of that into a report and give that to a business and explain to them in more kind of understandable terms, translating that kind of technical data into something which they can understand and implement any changes that they might need to, using their IT support team.
Yeah, it often seems to me that the tools for aggression are the same as the tools for protection. You've just got to use them in different set of hands. So clearly the police are working together on cybercrime. You've mentioned Cleveland and Durham and Northumbria working together. But what about the Northeast Business Resilience Centre? How do you work with them?
Yeah, so we're actually included in the core membership, which is the kind of the standard free membership that the Business Resilience Centre offer. And so anybody who becomes a core member of the BRC is able to be, kind of like referred to us for any of the free services that we provide. You don't have to be a member of the BRC to get them. Anybody's, eligible for them. And then what happens is, once they've exhausted any of the free resources and support that we can provide to them, if they're needing something a bit more bespoke or long term or advanced that we're not able to offer, we can then obviously refer them back to the Business Resilience Centre for them to continue that support and point them in the right direction.
Excellent. And the National Cyber Force, this new force that's working at a sort of international level, have you any involvement with that?
Not specifically or directly, but it is something which is feeding into the work and the instructions that we get from the National Cybersecurity Centre, which is part of GCHQ. So it is all one big kind of, awareness programme, and there's lots of other things happening behind the scenes. And so it does all filter down, but directly that isn't something that we need to get involved in, because there's other people doing that work for us and then filtering it down as and when we need to know it.
Indeed, cybercrime is from the individual right up to the nation state, isn't it? It's a huge.
Yeah, no borders, no boundaries.
No, absolutely. So on a more personal level, then, why the police? How did you get into this?
Well, I've got quite a varied career. I actually studied film and media at university and did work in film and TV and radio for a good few years. But I kind of just fancied a bit of a change, really. And I had quite a few friends working in the police, and it just seemed like a bit of an interesting thing to do, and obviously a really kind of worthy thing to do. So I actually started by answering the emergency calls and the 101 calls in North Yorkshire control room. Did that for about 6 years, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And kind of just progressed from there, really. I've kind of worked in between times in other media roles, but I've always kind of come back to the police, I think, because I like the idea of being able to help people and provide a service that maybe they wouldn't be able to kind of afford to get. And so when this particular job came up, it seemed to combine all of the skills and the interests that I have, working with technology, developing technology, being creative with that technology to actually communicate messages and support members of the public.
Yeah, it's really interesting how people get into cybersecurity from all different aspects of life. Anyway,
Yeah.
my last question for you then. This year's been another strange one. What one thing would you like to see happen in the next 12 months?
I think it's really important that businesses take cybersecurity seriously. I think they're starting to wake up to it a lot more, but there's still an awful lot that are burying their head in the sand, especially maybe smaller businesses who don't think that they might be a target because they don't think they've got anything valuable. But what they have to remember is that they'll have a supply chain, so there might be a small kind of cog in a bigger wheel that the cyber criminals are trying to get to. And also any data that they have that belongs to an individual, if that gets stolen, that's then used to obviously target these individuals through phishing campaigns. And so that's when you've got the emotional impact and the knock-on effect to individuals and obviously their emotional well-being. And so, businesses do have a duty of care to their customers and the data they own. But let's also think about the individuals working within that business who have to deal with a cyber attack and the impact it has on them. Long term, we've seen that, again, like you say, it's not just a financial impact, it's an emotional impact as well. So I really would like to see in the next 12 months, businesses start to take this a little bit more seriously and engaging with it more actively.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that, Claire. I'd also like to thank Robert Campbell's helping to set up these In Conversations, brought to you by Cyber North, the Northeast Cybersecurity Cluster, part of Dynamo Northeast. So look out for the next Now series, and if you're interested in taking part or know someone else who could, please get in touch through www.cybernorth.biz. Thank you very much, Claire.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
That was In Conversation with Phil Jackman, lead for Cyber North. Audio and video production was by me, Robert Campbell. This was a Team Funds production for Dynamo Northeast.